Hey guys, sorry if this video seems a bit, different. I just wanted to test out a new format. As you can see, we're in the second Dark World. I just wanted to take this time to kind of try and, I don't know, illustrate my thoughts when it comes to certain things that are going on in Deltarune. Like, for instance, why does this fight with Devil matter?
Chaos.
Like, you know, Devil, like, this chapter is blatantly ignored because you're automatically given all the enemies. But why, you know? Like, why Devil specifically? Why him? Why is he special? Well, I have a little theory of mine. I mean, it's more like a little bit of a hope and a dream, if you will. That basically, perhaps the devil will come back. But also, maybe whatever the devil says actually might be important. Because for all we know, all that he's talked about has been stuff that has come true before. You know, us meeting Queen, us meeting the Knight, which is something that the King also confirmed, that Devil actually talked to him about. You know, us fighting strike by strike with the Knight, you know, like the prophecy battle. And they even word stuff exactly like in the prophecy, which intrigues me, you know? So, unless some sort of mystery man gave him, you know, the actual panels to look at, I'm confused about Devil's words to the story. But also, he gives us a bit of a framework as to what will go on. If we take a look at his color scheme, we can see that his main colors are, they're lime and, like, you know, yellow, but, like, his outfit is mainly like a dark bluish purple thingy. And what's interesting to me is that it's almost the perfect inversion of Fran's colors. Which is concerning, because it tells me that either A, Devil knows about Fran, which implies that Fran is the one who told him about, you know, the prophecy shit. Sorry for swearing about that. It implies that Fran is the one that told him about the prophecy stuff, or, right, either that or he directly opposes Fran, which implies that someone else told him about the prophecy. And I think this opposition is important because notice he never really wanted to hurt, in the sense that when he had first learned this information that, oh wow, my world is fictional, this world is a game, all for chaos, he kind of broke under the pressure because he's supposed to, you know, he's supposed to be a jester, you know, but he's got all this shit going on. And, kind of drove him insane. But also, something interesting to me is that Devil might come back in some significant way during the festival, due to the fact that we've seen secret bosses be able to regenerate from their item forms. We saw it with Spamden when he got out to go talk to Senna. So, very likely that Devil will come back, I hope. Also, something else to talk about, right? The prophecy. There's no use in really debating what Susie saw if the point of it is to, you know, anticipate. It's useless to try and play this guessing game instead of this numbers game. Which I've been sort of minding my specific attention to a particular live stream of a sort of anniversary. And, you know, I noticed that in previous posts, right, whenever Toby Fox is really proud of something, he calls it out specifically. He doesn't, you know, just wait for it to become revealed. No, he wants people to know about it. Like, you know, when he was making Deltarune in the first place, he had Gaster up on, take the Twitter over, so that way promote Deltarune. And what do you know? Deltarune is super epic. He did that with Tenna. He revealed the 3D modeling he was doing for Tenna. All those years ago. So, it's clear that when he wants to reveal something, it's usually something he's proud of. Which gets me to my next point. The first human. Now, this may come as a surprise, you know, what do you mean the first human? I'm talking about Kara freaking Dreamer, right? Now, why am I pulling Kara into this? Why am I pulling Kara into this? Oh, I have a personal theory that involves Kara. And it all stems from something that I like to call the infinite loop. This infinite loop contains both the stories of Undertale and Deltarune, containing them both as prequels and sequels of each other. The direct actions taken in Deltarune result in Undertale, as well as vice versa. So, what that means is... Oh yeah, I should probably say... What that means is... When we are to beat Deltarune, I have a sneaking suspicion that that'll lead to the creation of Undertale. And, you know, vice versa, events in Undertale create Deltarune, and I think I know the exact events. When we go on commercial break. So, what is this theory that I have about, you know, the Undertale and Deltarune becoming a recursive loop of each other? Well, as we know in Undertale, Dr. Gaster was a royal scientist before Albus, or at the very least before Albus took the mantle of, you know, royal scientist, which implies that Albus knew Gaster personally. Now, what interests me is the different entries in Undertale, in the True Lab. These entries follow a good numbering scheme, so we know who's talking. Now, this numbering scheme follows pretty well, but of course entry number 17 is missing, and I'm pretty sure we all know which one that is, what entry number 17 is. Now, entry number 17 is the funny Gaster one, right? But due to the nature of entry number 17, also Undertale and Deltarune, and Undertale and Deltarune in here? Anyway, so the nature of entry number 17 specifically being Gaster-centric implies that the entries before it could also be from Gaster, which is why I think that might be where the formality within the entries before entry number 17 could be coming from. I think they could be coming from Gaster himself, instead of like Albus. Because if you recall, they were doing the determination experiments, but all of a sudden after entry number 17, the writing in the entries became a bit more informal, like something that Albus would text. Which, yes, it's Albus. But I'm saying that the entries before that must be when Gaster was, running about, not, shattered across time and space. But also the specificities of entry number 17, the funny, photon rings, negative. A lot of people already know about it. It's likely a dark fountain that Gaster accidentally created. But here's the thing. If we take into account that Gaster and Albus were working on the determination experiments together, that could likely mean that they had pure determination on standby. And if you recall, what a dark fountain was, it's determination. It's the determination of the bearer of the blade that strikes the earth, right? That's what a dark fountain is. So if we take that into account, we can say that, would mean that, you know, it should likely mean that Gaster accidentally made a dark fountain due to the sheer amount of determination that they harvested from the human soul. Which is likely, you know why? Because it's likely. Because of the fact that, hey, we know that they were testing out stuff in the core before moving that, before Alphys moved that shit to True Lab. And if memory serves us correct, that would mean that the funny layout of the core was shifting all the time, which would mean that the room that Gaster was in is likely still in the core to this day, just locked behind the ever-shifting labyrinth. And so the grandiose dark fountain that Gaster accidentally made is likely still in there. Let's think about that. Phrasing again. Dark fountain made from pure determination. Chock full of it too. Wouldn't that make like a, I don't know, something like a grand fountain? I might be going a bit crazy here, but you know, it does kind of seem like Gaster made the first dark fountain. You know, the grand fountain, and it's very likely now, instead of that, when he disappeared and scattered across time and space, instead of, you know, literally falling into the core, he fell into a dark world, so to speak. And with no easy way out, since monsters in Undertale barely possess determination, he kind of stayed there, if you get the gist. And so if we take into account, you know, the funny, haha Gaster created Deltarune, this makes more sense if it is Undertale Gaster after entry number 17. You know, Gaster finds himself in a dark world but doesn't know how to get out because nobody told him how to, you know, seal the fountain. There's no Ralphie here. So, presumably he creates Deltarune from something. Let it be it, like, I don't know, some sort of computer, green Gaster shenanigans. Yeah, whatever. Right. But he ends up creating Deltarune. And what results from Deltarune is, particularly his main writ of work in Deltarune is the prophecy. Very likely the prophecy. We know that Gaster has a very specific way of writing. He writes in all caps, which is how all of the prophecy panels in Deltarune are written. No matter which prophecy panel. There's no lowercase, not like the funny second voice in the intro sequence. It's just Gaster. And I think he wrote a story different than the Deltarune that we currently know, the one Deltarune that we have, that we still don't have access to. Because the story about the prophecy panel doesn't add up to me. Like, what do you mean the cage with human soul in parts? That's not a good descriptor of Chris. Chris is more than just the cage. And, like, Susie is more than just the girl. Heck, Gerson even called Susie the dragon. Which means that she has a higher purpose other than the girl. And also, I highly doubt that love would find its way to Susie. I mean, she's not the romantic type. Attribute more or less fits Noelle. As, you know, she falls in love with Susie. But then we get to the weird route, and then things start getting interesting. Something interesting to me is that when it says, why does it say love? Why not romance, or a relationship, or heck, even bonding? Why love? What could that mean? love mean in the grand scheme of Toby Fox's work? Well, something that is always met, something that presumably carries over from Undertale, considering how much other stuff carries over from Undertale. You know, we have EXP, we have our Undertale light menu in the light world. Why wouldn't love mean the same thing? And heck, it means the same thing in the context of the Weird Room. We manipulate Noelle, increasing her level of violence, her ability to do harm to others, like her, practically being able to murder her best friend of God knows how many years. And ultimately, fall under our control. Ultimately, love found its way to the girl. Whether normally via romance or genocide, via, love. Which is crazy to me, Like, I don't see enough people talking about what love really is, like the meaning of love. I'm gonna wake up on it. Like, the meaning of love in Undertale and Deltarune is something specifically denoted. Because otherwise, Toby wouldn't give us the meaning of love. At least not as easily like in Undertale. Sans just straight up tells us the meaning of love. And EXP. And also, Spamton straight up impersonates Kara in the Weird Room when talking about, the requirements to get the Thorn Ring. And it might also be the thing that he's referring to in the Weird Route when you fight him, like you and that Hoche Mama have been making. It might be the thing that he's referring to, not determination, not freedom. It might be referring to love, which is concerning, because it implies he also knows a prophecy. And of course, we kind of know that because of the way that he interacts with the Tenna fight. He literally tells us that Tenna's about to die. So, yeah, he knows the prophecy. He knows what's about to happen. Like, at the very least, in the actual series of events, he knows what's gonna happen. It's not a secret to him. It's not a secret to any of us. It's not a secret to him, nor Jebel, nor even Gerson. And also, right? Spamton as well as many other Darkners call Noelle Angel. Which is weird, because kind of not really. I mean, she has angelic outfits, like inspired type stuff. But she's not exactly the angel. As we've learned in Chapter 4, us, the player, is kind of an angel. Not the... Yeah, so there's no way Noelle is the angel, because we're the angel, right? Right? Well, I highly doubt that we're gonna stay with Chris. I highly doubt we're gonna stay with Chris. You know why? Because of the weirder in Chapter 4. Disturbing stuff all around. But it's necessary. Because of the stuff that happens even just in Chapter 4, which will hopefully be elaborated on in Chapter 5, where apparently we see what might be determination, or at least a human soul growing within Noelle, which concerns me, because if disgusting, if the process of a monster's death still applies here, that would mean that anything else about monsters also likely applies. Which means, right? Which means a monster with a human soul will achieve godlike energy and potential, equal to that of the fucking god of hyperdeath. They're calling Noelle Angel because she will be the vessel that holds us, The angel. We're just using Chris right now because we got screwed over by some mysterious voice who I totally know the identity of. I may be rambling like Spamson, but I know the identity of the voice that took away our vessel and put us in a Chris. Now, if my theory is correct, right, and Gaster really did create Deltarune from being stuck in a dark world, that would mean that Undertale is still happening, you know? Undertale happened. That implies that also the multiple timelines of Undertale happened, which implies that Kara, the universe, happened. Which implies that they are bound to you and you are bound to them. And you know why that's significant? Because of the thing that Kara says specifically. They say to erase this pointless world and move on to the next. Of course, they could be talking about, you know, the next Undertale thing, but they don't. Because they specifically confront you about doing the genocide route again. They're not talking about another run of Undertale. They're talking about something beyond. Of course, you could take this as meta and say that, oh, Kara's referring to other games, you know, talking about the act of killing enemies to grind XP. But no, move on to the next. Why would Toby Fox introduce Kara to a multiverse and not do anything with it? Why would Kara, and even the Light Nurse, be off limits when it comes to merch and other things? And it's for that reason to which I come to the conclusion that Kara kind of became a little bit of a stowaway when Gaster tried to summon our soul to try out his cool new story, his new parallel story, based on his experiences in Undertale. You know, Alphys was alive, Undyne probably was. And heck, he might even have tried to contact outside Undertale with Gar. You know, how they disappear whenever they talk too much. It's probably them trying to relay back the information that they've learned back to Gaster, because he physically cannot exit the Dark World because he doesn't know how. And besides, the core is a labyrinth that shifts ever much. So, not exactly possible. Now, what concerns me is that Kara has the power to erase universes, to essentially mess with the story, to mess with the paper that their reality is penned by. So, that implies that they have around the same level of power over Deltarune that, well, Gaster has. Now, that's important because, well, that implies that if Kara was the stowaway to getting to Deltarune with us, it means that they were likely the one who interrupted our vessel-making process, who threw our vessel away, deleted it, erased it, and forced us into Chris. And they probably stuck around too. They are probably trying to manifest within Chris, as we saw in Chapter 1 when Chris had that red eye. Now, we talked it up to saying, oh, Chris is likely the Deltarune replacement for Kara. But I highly doubt that they would just be like that. I think that Kara was trying to possess Chris and use the knife, but ultimately Chris's stubbornness won out. And, well, you saw, they kind of just ate pie. But, yeah, there's a good chance that Kara's in this universe now. And also, Ralph is still still keeping in more than he lets on. Of course, you know. Now, go into detail explaining, the things I think about Rousey. But I don't really have the time for that because, I can give you the gist of my theory, and it's that Rousey himself is an unreliable narrator. He's changed things about the prophecy, about what he tells us in specific, and doesn't iterate on information until after it seems necessary, like here, where Lancer saves us. But he doesn't tell us that, right, darkness from one dark world can't exist in another. Oopsie daisy, my bad. And, he's an unreliable narrator when telling us the prophecy. He's unreliable in the way that, A, he doesn't want to offset things about the prophecy too much, so that way major story beats come true, which I get, as, time traveling is a complicated thing, and omniscience technically falls into that field. And what gets me is that he seemingly misunderstands the prophecy as well. Of course he knows when Tenna is about to die. That's why he was fucking telling Tenna, yeah, it's okay to be fucking useless, it's okay to be just a useless hunk of junk. Because he knows that he can't have anybody care for him because he's gonna die right now. Which, brutal. But Rousey, you need therapy. And Rousey is unreliable because he misunderstands certain things about the prophecy that I theorize. He doesn't know to a full extent. Now, why I think this, right? Why I think Rousey misunderstands the prophecy is that when talking about, okay, you know what? Rousey thinks, and everybody in this fandom thinks that Susie is the girl with hope crossed on her heart. That Susie is the one to, fight against the angel, the girl with hope crossed on her heart and stuff like that. Now, at last was the girl. It implies two girls in the prophecy, but it could just mean that the girl comes last in the prophecy, instead of there being two girls. Which I'm pretty sure Rousey misreads, which means that everybody else misreads, because there can't be two girls if there's one with the girl with hope crossed on her heart, and one whom love finds, as we said before, love. Which can't really happen if either A, Susie and Noelle are both the girl, which is weird because then we can't get their stories straight, which means either the prophecy is an unreliable narrator or Rousey is an unreliable narrator, and I'm leaning toward Rousey because he has severe misunderstandings of the way situations work. And something that gets me, right? By the way, December, Rousey, Susie, Noelle, Burley. These puzzle pieces, right, all come together. I'm going to use this fucking puzzle to help me explain my point. These puzzle pieces all come together, each one of them absolutely necessary. Despite the fact that they may overlap and battle against each other, ultimately, they're each important. Which is why I'm confused on why Deltarune is supposed to only have one ending. It's entirely possible that the one ending that we're talking about, the one ending that Rousey is hoping to avoid, is something that ideally can't be prevented by the regular people that are told within the prophecy. So I highly doubt that there are more than four heroes told about in the prophecy. I doubt it because it means that there's an extra able to account for, and therefore the prophecy would be invalid. Which is why I don't think that Susie is the first girl. I don't even think Susie is any girl. Susie cannot be a girl in the prophecy because accidental trans. No. I'm saying Susie can't be the girl in the prophecy that it speaks about because of the unique things that happen. With hope crossed on her heart, it could either mean A, the girl has hope in their heart, or B, the girl doesn't have hope. The girl is bleak. The girl is hopeless. Hope crossed on their heart. Now, that kind of sounds like Noelle. You know, when she's referring to, you know, her parents and her mom, like, basically her dad's situation, you know, his sickness. And what gets me is that Susie cannot, or Susie should not be able to gain love in the same sense that Noelle has, so immediately she's disqualified from that. But also, right, Ralsei thinks Susie is the girl so much that he decorated her room to have the prophecy panel showcasing the girl with hope crossed on her heart. He does not understand quite much what hope being crossed means. He doesn't understand the circumstances of that hope. And while yes, Susie is a beacon of hope, she's the antithesis of the girl of the prophecy. And of course, as we know, Susie, as told by Gerson, has the pen to rewrite fate. She is the unique variable within Deltarune. She'll likely be the one to stop either be able to stop the weird root if we were to do it improperly, or be the one to prevent the one ending in the normal or even pacifist route. What is this one ending? Actually, no, I think it'd only be in a true pacifist route, the one where you recruit everyone. Because recruiting seems to matter, despite the fact that our choices don't matter. They matter here. And that strikes me because, well, Susie kind of develops as a character throughout all these chapters, you know, due to her adventures in the Dark World. These adventures matter, and Ralsei knows that too, but he doesn't quite get how they matter. I know it seems like I'm starting to use filler words, that's because I am somewhat getting tired. So I'm gonna try and get to my main points that I want to talk about in this video. So basically, right? If Susie is not the girl in prophecy, but the one destined to try and rewrite it, that would mean that Susie would be opposing to anything that we try and do. Of course, she hates it when people try and control others. She hates being confined. She doesn't like following rules. To a T. I mean, of course, you see it right here if I were to break this. But also, as they say opposites attract, Noelle gravitates towards Susie a lot. And of course that could just be because, oh yeah, Yuri, lesbians. But I really know, so Toby would do Yuri for the sake of Yuri. There has to be a point to this. Without it, love won't find its way to the girl. And basically, sorry, I gotta log out of this time. Basically, right? That would mean that Susie could somehow oppose what we're gonna do. Like I said before, if what I think is happening is gonna happen, that implies that gonna possess Noelle, and with the human soul within her monster form, we're gonna essentially do what Azrael and Kara could not do in Undertale. Much more efficiently. And essentially greater than what Kara could ever do. And Kara. I'm calling back attention to Kara's name. You know why? Because Toby Fox called attention to Kara in the 10th anniversary stream. Why would he do that, you know? Why call attention to a character that you haven't really done anything with for the past 8 years? Unless you're planning on doing something with the character. Toby Fox, like I said this earlier, Toby Fox never really does this unless he's proud of what he has to show. He has Deltarune Chapter 5 finished. Whatever he's trying to tease, he's proud of it. That's how I know this is gonna be good. By the way, speaking of things that'll be good, y'all excited for the circus movie? Anyway. So, yeah, to summarize all my thoughts up to now, I think that Deltarune and Undertale all take place in a recursive loop of each other being each other's past and future. But how is that possible, you may ask? You know, I only showed how Undertale can lead into Deltarune. How could Deltarune lead into Undertale? Oh, I'm glad you asked. I think that whatever shenanigans happen in the normal route lead to, actually no, whatever shenanigans happen in the pacifist route lead to a different ending than the one aforementioned in the prophecy. You know, shadows cutting deeper, the Titan shade from dark and dies. You get the gist. What I think is gonna happen is like, it's not a fanfiction ground, but I think what's gonna happen is that something involving Susie is gonna make it so that way whatever final tragedy, because you know how the prophecy talks about the final tragedy before saving the world? Or worlds, specifically. I think it might have something to do with like a sacrifice or something. And Susie doesn't want people to sacrifice themselves for her. She'd rather do it herself. So why would she be opposed to it? Well, it's likely because someone else is going to sacrifice themselves. That's what I think, right? But right. What I think is we don't need any man, woman, or child at half price. We don't need Mike. Oh man, I need to get into telling y'all about Mike. Now, I need to tell you the rest of what I think is gonna happen. I think Susie's gonna prevent the final tragedy in like the pacifist route, and basically because she would stop the final tragedy, that would mean that she stopped the way of saving the world from occurring. Which you know, dooms the world. The world, turns to the roaring. Instead of the destined one ending that apparently not even Ralsei wants. But, as you know, you gotta be careful what you wish for. Now, I think, this is getting a little fanfiction-y, I think, fuck over here, friend. Gotcha, found you, motherfucker. Anyway, I think Susie will be contacted by Gaster. Oh, here, this is going in crack theory category. I think Susie is gonna be contacted by Gaster in some kind of way in order for her to be able to rewrite all of Deltarune, essentially, to become a new story where everybody lives, where everybody gets to go home free. What story does she write? Well, she writes a whimsical story about a world with humans and the monsters having magic, and them being sealed underground. And what to name the human that starts it all? What about a funny name? What I name this character? Kara. No, that's a name. I think Susie is responsible for the story of Undertale. I am dead ass. Susie might be responsible for Undertale's events, and thus completes the loop. Because with Undertale, we have Gaster doing his experiments on determination, ultimately creating a dark fountain. The grand fountain that Deltarune, all of Deltarune, stems from. All of it is both past and future. All of it is to be foretold and has been told thousands upon infinite amounts of times. For these pointless worlds have been erased and written over on the parchment of existence. So yeah, that's my funny Deltarune recursion theory. I'm gonna be going into a bit more stuff about Deltarune before I cap off this video. So yeah, just stick around for that. Side note, I'm back here because I need you to see something. Ralsei's eye color. Now, yeah, this was a fucking jump scare when we saw it in chapter 2. It was like, oh my god, he's hot. What's the significance of eye color? Specifically the characters who have it enunciated like Ralsei does here. Like, Toby Fox wanted us to look into his eyes. Why pink? Why pink? That's something I'll be delving into. 3, 2, 1. What is the significance of pink and yellow? We see it first with Spamton, then with Friend. We see it in the 8-bit games. We see it in the secret ERAM fight. We see Friend itself in the ERAM fight. And when we hear of chapter 5, we hear of the field of pink and gold. What is the significance of pink and yellow? And why, oh why, does it pertain to the identities of Ralsei and Mike? What is freedom? What is this act that these secret bosses strive so much for, to the point of even attempting to kill Lightners? question. What is yellow? It's a lesson that we're told about in Undertale and a lesson that we're made to remember because we're told to play Undertale but we're Deltarune. So, what is yellow in this context? Justice. And in this context, when talking about freedom, it's the act of wanting to be free. To take one final stand in defiance to act for your lives. For whatever existence you have managed to crown together, down in the dumps, locked in the jail, or hell, even buried under buckets. It all leads to one place and one place only. Freedom. Yellow, if it's still justice, implies a logistical way of thinking. Business is a salesman. Logistics is a second chance. Of course, only to charisma and social working. So, if yellow more or less pertains to business, so big shot, what is danger? Well, what did I tell y'all to pay attention to? What was the one thing I told y'all? To pay attention to Ralphie's eyes. Why pink? Why are they pink? Could be just a cute eye color that's uncommon among darkness. Why pink though? Feels like, and like I said before, he's only seeing half the picture. What's pink half? Pink and yellow. Ralphie is half of one sort of being, a sort of friend. He only has half the picture. Because that's all he knows. Friend. Friendship. The power of pacifism and, well, freedom from guilt, from social restrictions. Ralphie is the other side of this freedom coin. Freedom! Sorbet. And since Ralphie is one half of this coin, what happens to the other half? Take a wild guess as to what happens to the other half. I take a wild guess as to what happens. Mike is likely the other half of the coin that Ralphie originates from. And ultimately, the reason why he disappeared was because he did something that apparently he was never supposed to do. Instead of thinking about the logic of things, the way that Tenna used to act, the way that Tenna was so obsessive with Samson, that logic clouded his judgment. He was doing something that would ultimately screw up Samson in the long run. What was that thing? Well, we may never know what was in that contract, but it was gonna screw up Samson, and it was something that Mike knew was gonna screw up Samson, so Mike did something that ultimately he was never supposed to do, something that made him disappear because he was showing too much information. Like a Gaster follower. Mike actively broke character to warn Samson. He didn't gain love, but he gained love. If that makes any sense. Mike may have disappeared, died, I don't know what happened to Mike, but he spent that life to save the one person he really bonded with. Away from whatever life was gonna restrain him, was gonna take away his freedom. What Anna was gonna do. Well, Mike acted. Because of Mike's actions that we're here now, without Mike, Hampton would be stuck with Kenna. Still tied to those strings. Well, Kenna makes those rings. Hampton's self-deprecation is just a symptom of him missing Mike clearly, not knowing that he had saved him. Mike gave him his life to save the one person he really got to know. Just like how Ralph wants to save Rich and Susie, because they're the only people he's ever gotten to know. And Kenna also feels why do you think he obsesses over Mike? He knows Mike did something and he knows that Mike is on. He doesn't want to accept it. That's why he gets mad at the others for trying to work around the fact that there's presumably no Mike. Not physically abusive, but he doesn't know how to handle defeat quite like Hampton. And it's this defeat that really shows what Hampton thought. He finally realizes what Mike was trying to teach him, what Mike realized himself. Myself and my friends. He knows, but he wants to change for the better. That's what Mike did. That's what Ralph is trying to do for everybody, to get them to change. But it was all but for naught. Now, what is a friend? Clearly something like Ralph or even Mike, someone who could traverse different dark worlds and manifest without the risk of turning to stone. Ralph, you remember what he looked like when we first met him? And you know what the friends looked like? Going back to a previous point, we know that Ralph knows that this display of kindness and friendship learned the lesson is ultimately useless. He feigns surprise because he knows what's gonna happen next. He knows that they have to lose here. But he also knows something else. What did the friends look like again? Oh yes. Like that. But Ralph didn't expect the details. He didn't expect that the knight would try and kidnap Toriel. all it specified was the heroes would battle against the night strike by strike. He doesn't know everything. And therefore, like I said, he has a misunderstanding of what's happening around him. And, well, this. Ralsei has a fundamental misunderstanding of what's at play. He doesn't know about the stresses of the light world because it's not relevant to the prophecy, or really not to the level that he understands it in. He doesn't care, but it surprises him when it hits him. It surprises him every time, he learns something new about the light world that he didn't know previously. All he knows is that he's the Prince of Darkness, that he is destined to just lead the Lightners to their win, essentially, to whatever condition allows them to win. But also, he himself is developing feelings that he knows goes against the prophecy. He himself is developing the feeling that, hey, maybe I do want freedom, like Mike said. Maybe I want to not have to commit to one ending. It's ultimately the reverse of the lesson. It's ultimately a parallel of the lesson that Mike had learned, or at least I think that he had learned. This drive to proceed, to persist, this determination. Now, despite always being present within Ralsei, the thing that courses through its very form, the thing that allows him to traverse the dark world, is now the thing that he wants to use as fuel to proceed, to erase this pointless story, to move on to something new, to something better, to move on to the next. And I think that Ralsei misunderstands what's happening in here, what's at stake, and also why everything's happening the way it is. If he had known everything that was the reason why, and how, and when, and everything, essentially, then we, as the heroes, would not be needed. We just know what to prevent, but he doesn't. He's left with the gap in the prophecy that we see. In the prophecy, it's not specified who the bounty child's name will be. We're just specified, oh, the pointy-headed will say toothpaste, then boy. That's all he knows at first. Well, he expects the adventure to fill in the gaps all nicely. He doesn't expect most of the things that come at him in terms of details, in terms of mechanics. All he knows is the basics. All he knows is the base structure of the story as it was written. And he lies about it. He wants to think he knows everything that happened because he needs that sanctity to know that everything's gonna be okay, but he doesn't. It's why he's scared of Susie finding out the prophecy, because it's just as ambiguous to him as it is to her, but he doesn't want her to connect the dots before he can, to be able to solve the entire premise of Deltarune. burning concept of our choices not mattering. When ultimately, our choices don't matter. But someone does. Sorry if I got a bit dramatic as fuck there. I was kind of getting into the mood of the fight. Side note, if the freaking Death's Night theory is real, and Death has been kept in the shelter the entire time, that implies that Death's body has absorbed the determination of the dark world around her, which means that she might be an amalgamate in the light world, but in the dark world, you know, when a place that's fueled by the imagination, her mind can rigidly structure herself to be the roaring night itself. That's why her form is malleable. That's why it can be squashed, stretched, and turned into weaponry. Why her attacks are so powerful, because all she has left is her mind, not her body. It's something that even Carol knows, and why it's probably why Carol asked for the police sacrifice. Carol knows that December cannot hold this much determination within her without melting, which is why they need Undyne. If my theories are correct and Undertale and Deltarune are inexplicably sequels and prequels of each other, it implies that Undyne might have the same potential to harness determination as she did in Undertale, which could mean that she could absorb a much higher dose of determination to keep December alive. Which is probably what Carol is planning to do with Undyne. You know, to expend the high amounts of determination currently coursing within December's veins, just causing her form to destabilize like this. And, well, Undyne's one of the only people that's left that knows about the stuff that goes on in the bunker. She's a liability. And Carol can't have that. Carol is famous for meticulously planning. So if the night is death, and if Undyne is just a first course, let's say, in order to make sure death stays stabilized, well, it validates my theory that, well, that in the Weirdverse, we're gonna be creating our own artificial god of hyperdeath. And that's the night beat. Well, as you can see, her form destabilizes after taking an arduous hit that she, well, let herself fall for. Her form destabilized due to her mind destabilizing, just like Undyne in the neutral room. She's a twisted version of the true hero. The knight who would slay the dragon. An inversion of what we're expected to praise and, you know, relish in. But she's no hero. And neither is Ralsei. Not in his traditional sense. He knew they would fall, just not like this. Chris, on the other hand, has one of the most complicated relationships with a villain that I think I've ever seen. They're trying to help December because ultimately it might have been Chris's fault that all of this ever happened because, well, it might have been Chris who went into the forest with December chasing after, lost where the forest would grow. The children, not the teenager, the children would follow the pointed tail. As you'd remember. They follow the pointed tail and they find the cat from hell. Friend. Speaking of Undyne. Honestly, side note, I would love Undertale mod that replaces everybody's textures with their textures from Deltarune. So new Undyne Bloodstone. Anyway, this is where I'm really gonna end my video. Hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope y'all thought the funny